It has been a long wait for these 1UP Turbo Truck Series drivers to get back into action, but that is exactly what's on tap here this evening. 40 laps around the Daytona International Speedway to kick off this 2026 1UP Turbo Truck Series season. We've got a lot of new faces, a lot of returning faces, and a lot on the line over the course of the next 20 races to decide our next series champion for this year. And alongside me in the booth to bring you all the action for today's race is Ryan Griffin, back with us for another year. Great to have you with us. It's always unpredictable when we turn up at Daytona, but that's what we love about it, because everybody gets a chance to run up front and possibly even etch their name in the winner's circle.
Put it best when you said that everybody's got a chance, but Daytona is more than just Daytona. It's the first race. Everybody comes in with like those fresh, everybody's slate is fresh coming into this race. And it literally is, hey, we're just going to let the rough side drag, and, you know, it's all for getting a win that can say, hey, you won Daytona. And that is, it can make or break a career if you win this race, or if you win at Daytona. And, you know, as we saw last year, you know, the players and everything else, and it's fun to watch Daytona just in general, and the fans pack this place, and it's gonna be fun this year. We got some new as you said, new faces and new places, and some returning faces, but we'll get used, and may take us a minute or two to get used to some of the new names, but we'll be ready for it.
That we will, because with the starting lineup being set earlier this week, we can now bring that to you. Our top three in the qualifying order were not full-time in this series a season ago. Eric Monaco, who takes the first pole of the season. He was a Superstar Series driver one season ago. Christian van Heerden, the hotshot rookie sensation from the Netherlands. He comes up from the Modifieds to take over for DJ Curtis at Fingai Saitomi Motorsports. And Robert Weaver, a Nitro National driver a season ago, he slides in behind the wheel of the Blue Sky Racing number 20. So those three by themselves are full of intrigue, full of great storylines, but we've got some other new names to keep our eye on. Brandon Beal, a longtime Superstar driver in the 88 for Express Motorsports. He starts 5th. Jesse Turner, running for Rookie of the Year for your guys at Great Lakes Motorsports. He starts 8th. And so many other stories, it's hard to keep a track of them all, but my main focus for at least right now and for the start of the race is going to be on those top three. They've got so many diverse backgrounds, but they're all here at Daytona chasing the same goal.
And that's the thing, we may be talking about everybody in this field at least at one point, because as we saw last year, it didn't necessarily matter where you started. So you look at some of the names near the bottom of the starting grid here. You know, Messi's back here, Cal Farrell's back here. Wyatt Wilkinson, who ran a few races last year, you know, he's back here to start off with, and Samantha Jade starting tail end of the field. You know, there may be some names down here we mentioned later on, given the way Daytona is and the way the draft works here. So we'll have to see who can shuffle their way to the front when it matters most.
It'll certainly be a shuffle over the course of 40 laps this evening, but it's who positions themselves in the right place at the right time that's really going to pay dividends in this race. But with that being said, we've got 42 truck drivers ready to etch their name into history, and we're ready to bring it to you now. It is the 1UP Turbo Truck Series season opener from Daytona, and the green flag getting set to get this great race underway, so stay tuned for that. It is going to be a thrill ride. Getting set to kick off this 2026 season in style, it is Eric Monaco on pole position, Christian van Heerden on the outside, leading us into the restart zone. The green flag is out, and at long last, the Turbo Truck Series is back in action here at Daytona. Looks as though it's a very even launch off the line. Van Heerden was actually the first one to the start-finish line, but the outside line starting to break up already. That's going to give Monaco the advantage heading into turn 1, although Weaver left that bottom lane open just a touch, but denied Brandon Beal the chance to cut under.
Well, we'll see them all night running double file and sometimes three wide without issue. It's when they try to force 4 wide is usually when things happen, but through the early laps, Monaco looks like he's going to jump to the high lane. That gives the inside to Weaver, who I remember driving the 6 truck a couple of years ago in this series, so he's definitely got experience in the series. Looks like he's going to try to see if he can lead the first lap of the season. He's got pressure from, I believe that's the 88 of Brandon Beal right behind him. And it looks like...
Yeah, Weaver's got it. Weaver's got it, but behind Brandon Beal is Robert Weaver's teammate, Mitchell Carter, in the 28. Was the 4 truck last year. It is now the 28, same team, just a new name and a new number. But Mitchell Carter is looking to end this race like he ended the last race of 2025 in victory lane. Remember, he won at Homestead last year to cap off a great end of the season for him. He's looking to continue that momentum here, and he's being pushed by Rhodes Gray in this 10 truck, and he's a guy who I think has a lot to prove this year, because last year for Rhodes Gray was a lot of what ifs. What if he had made that chase, and what if he had been in contention for that championship? Now, a clean slate for that 10 truck as Brandon Beal takes the lead for the first time today, but going back to Rhodes Gray, I think this is a big moment for him in this season to prove that he can win championships and multiple races.
Well, he already proved last year he could win multiple races. I think it's just a matter of can they have things go their way. They had the unfortunate luck last year of not making the playoff, and they probably very easily could have made the playoffs last year. But this year, as I said in the pre-race, this year all these teams, it's a clean slate starting this race. So it's like you got put last year behind you and focus on this year. So far, Rhodes Gray, at least from the onset of this race, is trying to keep his nose near the front, and that's all you can do in these races is just kind of keep yourself close to the front. And right now it looks like Beal might, he's going to jump to the high side. This Carter's now going to take the run up the inside, and I tell you what, Mitchell Carter, it's nice to see him near the front, trying to continue that momentum from last year and winning that race last year, winning the finale last year. And I look for him to do some things this year. I think he's going to make more of a note this year than what he did last year.
And he now takes the lead for the first time in this race, but he now comes up to cover off Brandon Beal. That lets Rhodes Gray down to his inside. And look who's pushing that 10 truck. Alan Muccioli in the 7 for Vice Valley Motorsports. They added a 3rd truck over the offseason, put Muccioli behind the wheel. This is his first full-time attempt at the Truck Series, and now he's already climbed his way into the runners-up spot with a push from David Wells, who won a lot last year, and I expect to have a very strong campaign this year as well.
Wells, had a strong campaign, was in the playoffs last year, and won a couple races last year. So he's another one coming from that farm, that FPM team that has been a contender for the championship basically just about every year, it seems like, except maybe the year I think Kev Shear won it. I'm not sure if they were a factor that year. I think that was all Kev Shear, but being a factor for the championship, and I'd look for them to be a factor again this year, to put that effort forth. But I want to take note of somebody right now. The 3rd truck on the inside, that 70 truck, that's James Ellison, who won the very first truck race, and he unfortunately missed out on making the Superstar Daytona 500 this year. He's trying to come in here and maybe get a win on the weekend, and say, hey, at least we did something, we won something. So it's neat to see him running up there. I always like to see him run well, and he's been in the booth here a couple times too, so it's neat to see him when he runs and run well.
And he gets moved up to the high side, or the middle lane now, and he was pushing that 52, another driver making his Turbo Truck Series debut. That's the 52 of RJ Bishop, who slots up into the outside line, now is the 4th car in a single file train. But Rhodes Gray continues to lead out front. Logan Jones takes over that 66 from Paul Villalobos. He's going to be a contender this season, I feel. And right behind him, AJ Zhao, a Nitro National Series driver, running a handful of races this year for his own team. In that 8 truck, he started all the way back in 21st. He's already almost up to the top 5.
I'll tell you what's interesting right now is this field, they were double file. But then all of a sudden it seems like they've kind of spread out to now where we got kind of... It's still a couple of stragglers there on the top, but you got basically a single file line on the bottom that it's like they kind of got disorganized here for a second. I noticed the truck of Mitchell Carter, the 28 of Mitchell Carter, kind of slid back a little bit, so I wonder if there was a moment we may have missed or something, that he had a moment there and they just, it's like everything according back. But now here they are back 3 wide again, which you expect to see on this style of racing. 3 and 4 wide, you can run pretty much it's pretty much fine where you can run 3 wide, but it's when they try to force further than that is when it really gets hairy. You got to watch out. As we got another cycle to the point, I'm trying to get a second to see who the leaders. It's Zhao, the 8 truck.
Yeah,
Back for another run at it.
He's no stranger to success on the super speedways, but even he gets shuffled out now to make way for Archer Shriak, a former modified driver last year. Now he takes over the 61 truck full-time for what last year was Seismic Motorsports. Now Jacob Krego has inherited that team, is fielding it under his Krego Autosport banner with 3 trucks full-time. But look at this on the inside. Miles Mashburn. He won the pole for the Daytona 500 coming up in a couple days. He's going to be strong all season in Superstar, and he's going to run a handful of races in the trucks. He really wants to get that first truck win to make himself a winner in all 3 divisions.
And it's not like he hasn't tried from lack of effort. It's just sometimes just the circumstances didn't work out for him. But this weekend appears to be a good weekend for him too. As you mentioned, he's on the pole for the Superstar 500. So it'll be interesting to see if he can use that momentum into this race tonight and put an exclamation point, start the weekend off right.
But now Tanner Browning in the 55 comes up to cover him off. That opens the door for Logan Jones on the inside. This 66 truck is going to be something I'm going to keep my eye on a lot this season. This was a very successful team last year with Paul Villalobos driving. He's gone on to the Nitro National Series, and in steps Logan Jones, a bit of an unknown really. He hasn't run a full season very often, if at all. So this is going to be very interesting to see. He's got the equipment, he's got the team. Let's see if he's got the driving chops to make something of it.
Well, you mentioned the 66 team. The other one I'm wanting to watch is this one, the 98. Curtis Stevenson. Stevenson was a contender last year, made the playoffs last year.
With Robbers Racing, nonetheless.
And I honestly think there was more left on the table for him last year, and that I think he could have done better than what he did. But the ride he's in now, I think he has a real opportunity to be a true contender for the championship. And we'll have to see how it plays out this year and if they're able to do so.
And meanwhile, he took the lead briefly, but now it's James Ellison down on the inside leading that bottom lane, coming across the line to complete the 1/4 mark of this race. Stevenson did lead that lap at the line, so he picks up a point for his efforts, but James Ellison down on the bottom. I'm very curious to see what he can do in the later stages of this race in that second Incendia Motorsports truck, number 70. And he's also being pushed by Ryan Vasquez in the 63, a second Razorback truck this year. As it looks as though, you talked about him earlier, Wyatt Wilkinson, I think that truck has lost touch with this lead draft completely.
That's interesting. Like I said, it's weird that, we had that little, where they got single file, and it seemed like the field kind of shuffled a little bit. And I wonder if that might have been what caught up Wilkinson back there and why he kind of lost the draft. It looks like Turner's kind of almost in the same situation. Granted, he's a closer to try to get the pack back, but it sucks to lose the pack here. When you're running by yourself, it's like you're kind of at the mercy. You're just waiting for a yellow to catch you back in, and not be involved in said yellow.
Going back to what I was saying about Ryan Vasquez, this was the Smith Racing Enterprises team last season. Brandon Smith over the offseason turned the keys over to Dallas Miller, and he changed the team name, and they've kept the same driver lineup. And speaking of which, here comes Jeremy Frey down the inside in this 93. He's got a huge run of momentum down the inside of Curtis Stevenson. He's going to take the lead for the first time here on lap number 12. I expect big things out of this team. Frey was really solid last season, a handful of top 10s, came close to making the chase, and I expect with a new teammate in Ryan Vasquez, I expect that they're going to have a bit more of a good run at it this time around.
I'll tell you what, I mentioned it in the pre-race about guys at the back. Take note of the truck that's third in line on the inside. The 25 is Samantha Jade. Jade started dead last shotgun on the field, and here she is 13 laps into the race about cycling with the leaders. That shows you the nature of this style of racing and how it doesn't really so much matter where you start. It's more like you want your truck to race well and to be able to drive up there, and Jade's doing that right now. She looks like she's following I believe that's the 11 just ahead of her.
Yep, William Ayers, who won at North Wilkesboro late last year, so he's got a bit of momentum going for him as well. Cal Farrell in the second position. He's got another bit of momentum going. He was retained by Prego Autosport even with the acquisition of Seismic Motorsport last season. And I would not be surprised if Farrell becomes a bit of a lead driver role at that team. He's got the most experience. He's got a truck win. And I expect Shriak and Lee Muse, his teammates, to rely a lot on him for advice, for a lot of setup help, and I expect a lot of that 62 for sure. As Stevenson now dives down the inside for second, followed by the 25 of Jade, like you said. And behind her, our defending champion, AF Walsh, in the third FPM truck, the O2.
Again, it's interesting that the series has yet to have a repeat champion. Again, Curtis was the only one that came back to the series last year to try to see if he could defend his title, which he unfortunately was not able to. And, well, I guess you could say fortunately it was his teammate that actually won it, so it stayed in the same house kind of. But Curtis moved on to the national, to the Nitro series, so he didn't. We don't have a guy again defending the championships. So this championship, a lot of these guys like Stevenson and some of these others that have been here for a while now, it's like, okay, now this is your opportunity. This is your shot. And of course, it starts right here at Daytona. As we've seen, Stevenson so far seems to have a good truck. But this 7 truck, too, also able to stay up front as well.
And that's a bit of a surprise for Vice Valley Motorsports. They were pretty much nowhere last season with their stable of trucks, but they've got 3 of them full-time, 2 of which have were locked in for the first 5 races of this season, and they're both on track tonight with the 7 of Muccioli leading the charge in second place. But I've noticed the last handful of laps, Jeremy Frey's had a very firm grip on the race lead. I haven't seen that many people be able to challenge him as of recently. Although, as I say that, I look down on the inside line and I see 2 of the teammates from that one racing team, Elias Bershey and Austin Scott, both newcomers to the team. They've both cracked the top 5 together.
Yeah, it's just a matter of you get the right line, you get the right momentum going, and here comes the one I mentioned earlier that kind of seemed to fall back earlier when it broke up and we kind of had the single file line, is that 28 of Carter. And I'm telling you, Mitchell Carter might have a truck here tonight. I think this is the one that might be the one to watch here tonight, and he's trying to see if he can put it to Frey right now. He needs a little help, I think, but he crawled his way back up there, so I keep an eye on that 28 tonight.
And keep in mind as well, we're about halfway through what many teams consider to be their limit on their fuel run for this race. Although this race being 40 laps and the pit window being about 35 laps, I would not be surprised to see some people maybe at the back of the pack trying to conserve their fuel a little bit and try and make it to the end on 1 tank of fuel, because that is going to be a big factor. If a lot of people come down pit road in the dying stages of the race and you don't have to, that could be a big advantage.
Well, absolutely, especially on a track like this where if you get any kind of advantage, even if it's like you and a couple other guys get any advantage on the pack that you want. But Frey continues at the point as we got a truck here in second place. I believe it's the 55 that's moved into second.
It's one of the Breeding Enterprises trucks with Tanner Browning behind the wheel.
As they're 3 wide basically for third. And it's interesting that we're seeing the leader have kind of control over this race that we've seen so far, because it's not too often you see somebody able to kind of control these style of races. So Frey, obviously, they brought a piece here today for the opening race, and they're definitely showing it so far.
It doesn't really surprise me that much, though, because Frey had a really strong Super Speedway program last season. He had two starts, obviously, one at Daytona, one at Talladega, both of which I believe resulted in top 10 finishes. So it doesn't really surprise me that they put a lot of focus on this race, and so far it's paying off. Frey has led comfortably for the last 7 or so laps, but Shriak is lurking back there. I see Frey's teammate Ryan Vasquez back there. David Wells has made his way back to the front. These are good trucks, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a challenge come his way fairly soon.
As they continue to snake around here as we rapidly approach the halfway point of this race. And so far, knock on wood when I say this, so far no major incident in this race, and that's what you want to see. But ideally, you want to see a race that doesn't have any incidents, and so far, as we approach the halfway point, let's see if these guys can keep it clean for the second half of the race. But So far, neat, clean, and as it looks like the 61 will dive underneath for the race lead with help from Wells in that 92 just behind.
But what that's also done is that's put the teammates up on the outside line together, Frey and Vasquez. These two have worked pretty well together so far in this race, but it looks as though Shriak's going to cover them both off on the top lane. As we take the halfway lap, who's going to lead it at the line? Looks as though Shriak will get it, just barely over David Wells. 0.06 of a second separated those two at the line.
We might want to keep and use that interval. That might be the finish of the race if they stay like this.
Certainly.
So far, it's Wells out front. And I mentioned already a couple of times, but Samantha Jade started shotgun to the field, started 42nd, and now she's trying to take the lead here.
Certainly impressive from this 25 truck, who I've noticed this is becoming a bit of a trend for Samantha Jade. Rough qualifying effort, but really strong in the races. Able to pick her way through the traffic fairly well. But I notice up ahead of these guys, Wyatt Wilkinson in that 85. They've come up to put the 85 a lap down, and that truck isn't really damaged in any way. He just lost touch with the pack. So I'm curious to see if these guys are able to pick him up in any way, and if they are, who will that disadvantage out front?
Well, we're about to find out, but they should catch a problem here on the back straightaway going into turn 3. We'll see if they split them or if one line gets held up.
Looks like it's the top.
Slowly snake their way around. Yeah, it looks like he's going to hang to the top side, so that'll give Jade the lead out of that exchange.
Yeah, and
they double file.
I had a feeling this was going to happen because I knew Wilkinson had a decent truck. He just lost the pack early. So now that he's up at the front of this pack, he's got to hope for a yellow flag now to give him a free pass. But what if he can get that? He's by no means out of this.
Absolutely, and being only one lap down, and obviously a truck that has pace, it's just you lost the pack, and it's not like there's anything wrong mechanically with the truck. So you get a lucky break with a yellow, you can get back right in it. And we've seen before, like I said, I mentioned with Jade, you just start at the back of the pack, you can easily make your way through the field here too.
And here's another new face in the top 5 or so that we haven't talked about yet, that black and white 08 truck of Blaine Saylor. He won last time we were at a super speedway in the truck series at Talladega last fall, and I would not be surprised to see him take a big step up this year and contend for a championship, because he was arguably doing so last year as well. He's probably the lead driver at this point at the Team Duke organization.
Yeah, and Saylor last year, I think, was to me the biggest surprise of last year, how much of a contender he was until late in the season. They had a couple of things not necessarily go their way kind of late in the season that kind of derailed their chance to really have a chance at Homestead. But, I think it's kind of neat to see the momentum, see them running at least decently here tonight, try to pick up right where they left off and try to be more of a factor this year, as we got another lead change at the front, another different leader.
Rhodes Gray going back to the point. That 10 truck is really strong tonight, and I expect him to continue to be strong throughout the course of the season, as I see a little bit of 4 wide, a little bit further back between Monaco, Logan Jones, Stoyan, and Blaine Saylor. I think the 51's going to back out of that. Wise decision from the Romanian driver to make sure we didn't have a massive pile-up out of turn 2. But before that came up, I was going to mention this orange and white truck, Derek Hamill. He won this race this time last year to kick off his season, and it wouldn't surprise me if he managed to turn the trick again, although it's a little bit difficult now that he's got James Ellison and Robert Weaver to his inside.
Hamill started P4, but again, I think the outside and the shuffle, the way it works here, he kind of got shuffled back, but again, it shows the kind of truck he has, and he's been able to claw his way back from the back and into currently scored in the 2nd position as he runs right behind that 10 Rhodes Gray.
A couple other new faces in the front of the field to keep our eye on. That white truck on the inside, that Zach Fry in the 5. He was, in my opinion, one of the standout rookies last year. In subpar equipment, he still managed to finish 22nd in the points with a top 10 to his credit. Of course, he's got the same number as last year, but he's got a brand new race team, Aztec Motorsports, but he's driving that thing to the front, pushing Derek Hamill towards the race lead. And behind him, KJ Hayes, the new driver of the 91 truck, in a direct seat swap with Justin Whitmer. Whitmer took over Hayes' old ride in the Nitro National Series. Hayes is taking over this 91 truck, and he's doing a really good job of things up in the top 5.
Yep, just running in the top 5. And then, of course, Brandon Beals also worked his way back. He's the 4th truck on the inside. And the Mashburn we already mentioned. But behind Mashburn, the 83, Audrey Anzac, the 83. We haven't, again, not spoke much about them, but here they are working their way toward the front. And that's the way the shuffle and the lotto kind of works with the draft here. It's like you just want to be moving forward when it matters most. Yeah, it's kind of neat to see the cycle and see these different leaders and the different lead changes we see, but you just want to be on the positive end of that cycle at the end of the race when the pay window opens. So at the moment it is Hamill out front over Gray as they continue to kind of dice it up back here again. Looks like they're back 3 wide again just for a brief moment there, but primarily just the 2 lanes.
And how about that move Rhodes Gray made from the top of the track, cut way low, swing past Hamill and immediately take the lead back. This 10 truck is pretty strong. And going back to what you were saying about Audrey Anzac, I would put her in the same boat as Samantha Jade. Qualifies pretty rough most weeks, but is really able to race well, cut her way through the traffic, and make a good run out of it. And right behind Anzac, we got Jesse Turner making his way back to the front of the field in his first start at Daytona. And behind him, Vince Freeze, another rookie for Fitzwater Australia Racing. These two have patiently worked their way to the front of the field as we're rapidly approaching 10 laps to go.
And obviously, I mentioned the one that was my driver, the 17 there, Jesse Turner. But Turner and Freeze are two that I really want to watch this year because, especially the kind of decent speed we saw out of Freeze last year, I'm interested to see what happens if he can put together a full season, what kind of run he can have. As it looks like kind of got a little single file there. They were single file there for about the first 5, and it looks like Beal's going to duck out there for second. As behind them they still remain, we've been basically double file, I think, for most of this race. Damn, we're already at 11 to go.
And Robert Weaver has inserted himself back into the conversation in the Busch Light Toyota for Blue Sky Racing. He is back up into the top 10, and behind him, Clayton Sessom. He started this race down in 41st position. He's the new driver of the Heatwave Automotive 26 truck this year, and he is putting on a strong run late in this race, going from 41st on the grid to 9th at the last time they were across the line.
3 wide for second there behind Gray as Freeze looks to the inside. And again, now we're starting to see a little bit more 3 wide, but we're also getting down to the nitty-gritty of it. We're coming to 10 laps to go, so it's about trying to push your way to the front. And I'm looking at some of these guys that are cycling their way back up there. Guys we saw up there earlier, some fresh faces, but it's like it's go time. Everybody's going to start pushing now. This is where you got to watch, though, where you might see something happen because everybody tries to push, somebody tries to push a little more than what they've been pushing, and sometimes it can get you into trouble. So keep an eye on this eye of the storm, so to say, and see if you can get out of it in the best shape.
And one thing I've noticed on looking at that inside line behind the 3 of Santi Messi, all 3 Fingai Saitomi Motorsports trucks are running nose to tail in a line, and they're trying to fight their way to the front. Got AF Walsh leading the charge, Chris-John Van Heerden in the middle, and David Wells bringing up the rear. Those 3 are working very well together, and if they can get the 11 and the 3 out of their way, it would not surprise me one bit to see them try and make a stranglehold out of this race.
Considering that they're the team that seems like to be the all-time favorite as far as title contenders coming into this year, you gotta. It's interesting that they're working together here at Daytona to try to start off the year exactly the way you want to start it off. So we'll see if they can put it there. As it looks like Anzac's going to make a run here for third. Doesn't really have any help, so it looks like she's just going to drop in line. As they kind of got a little single file here now out. We've seen it off and on throughout the night, this kind of single file where they kind of pull away a little bit away from the pack, but then slowly but surely the pack kind of eats them back up. So we'll see if this is the point where we start to see a little bit of pull away here.
And keep in mind, we're not that far away from pit stops either. should they take place, and I would argue they will. Considering the frenetic pace of this race, as Van Heerden now takes over as the lead Fingai Saitome truck. This is his first start on a super speedway in anything for Van Heerden, and he's doing a very good job considering the lack of experience. He's run mostly short tracks last year and a road course race at Lime Rock Park, but this 22, it would not surprise me to see him make the chase in his first time out.
Well, you see, it's interesting because he's already established a couple of marks. One, he got himself a good qualifying lap in. They started P2 tonight. And he also has kept his nose clean. Has hey, we got pit stops.
Yep, we got Weaver coming in, William Ayers, and it looks like the 45 of Darren Mills. These three are the first ones to come down pit road, and I'm curious to see where these guys cycle back out now, because what they've done is they've split this front pack up quite a bit, so they're going to generate a lot of runs on each other, Gray and Freeze in particular. Heerden's going to get a big run on them down the back straightaway. I'm curious to see now how many trucks come down pit road next time around.
And we got to watch, too, and make sure no incidents, make sure they don't get into each other when they come to pit road, too, because, I mean, if we have an incident now, you could be talking the end of the race, so...
Absolutely.
We'll have to keep that in mind as they come around this time, see who hits pit road and how many, and if they do it mistake-free.
Looks like a lot more trucks coming down this time around, led by Rhodes Gray and Christian Van Heerden, but it looks like so far everybody's able to make it in without too much issue. I see maybe a little bit of contact between Brandon Beal and Zach Fry, but they're able to negotiate it without much further incident. Now, it's Santi Messi leading the charge with Vince Freeze, AF Walsh, Clayton Sessom, and the rest of the field. I would expect these guys to be coming down any lap now, because if you keep waiting too long, you might risk running out of gas entirely.
And then you ruin any chance. Oh, there might have been a little exchange there between the 22 and the 88 as they were exiting the pits. As the 22 was exiting, the 88 was getting in their stall. But you see, as we have 3 takers that kind of stay out, 6 actually, 3 more looks like they stayed out.
That would be Santi Messi, Clayton Sessom, KJ Hayes, Josh Gibson in the 43, Johnny DiLorenzo in the 77, and pole sitter Eric Monaco in the 1. These 6 trucks, and split in half in groups of 3, they have stayed on the racetrack, but they can't be thinking of staying out to the end of the race, not when the pit window opened a lot sooner than we were thinking it might. So I would expect these 6 trucks to be in either this lap or definitely the next.
And you see, it's a waiting game. They'll have 4 laps to go this time when they come around. And yeah, these 3 are going to come in this time. We'll see what happens with the other 3. I expect them, they'll come the same lap. So we'll see how this all cycles around.
Looks as though it'll be a battle between Freeze and Rhodes Gray for the lead, because you see Gray coming up behind with a huge run of momentum in that 10 truck. He's getting help from David Wells, but Audrey Ansack now fights her way past. I think this is going to be a big benefit to the likes of Vince Freeze, AF Walsh, and how about Nicolas Santiago in this 56 truck for Phantom Fury Motorsports? He was runner-up in the modifieds last season. He makes the step up the trucks, and he's now in the fight for the victory here at Daytona.
See, as they cycle back, this should be these guys, the leaders, as they pass these trucks at pit lane. How about AF Walsh, put the exclamation point on last year to take the championship, and in the opening race, as we come to what will be 3 laps to go at the line, he's going to be in contention to try to win the opening race the very next season. So, talk about carrying momentum from last year.
However, you look at Santi Messi and you look at KJ Hayes, these guys, I think, made out like bandits on this pit cycle because they waited till the very last minute to come to pit road, and look, they've still managed to hold decent track position. They're running 1st and 3rd at the moment, and they're going to be contenders as well for this win as we take now 3 laps to go.
I'll tell you what benefited Messi and those others. The packs behind that pitted didn't really so much stay as organized as I thought they would with the big group that they had. So it allowed them, as they spread thin, they're not able to carry the momentum like they had. And it allowed them to just kind of swallow just kind of file their way in a lot easier than if you had a big pack coming at you. So Messi so far looks like it's working out so far. He's going to be the race leader here with 2 to go. But he's going to have that 92 of David Wells on his back bumper as they'll come to the line with 2 to go.
And I think it's going to come down to these two, unless Rhodes Gray can quickly dispatch of Darren Mills directly ahead of him. If the 10 can get past that 45, I would expect Gray to be a serious contender to knock on the door of the 92 and the 3. But I think Wells and Messi, they're trying to prevent that from happening. They're just hooking up together to try and pull as far away from these two as from the rest of the pack as possible to try and make this a one-on-one fight between them. The problem they've got is once they go side by side, the rest of the pack will swallow them up like they're standing still.
That's why if Wells is smart, he'll hang on that back bumper of the 3.
Ooh, he's going now. He doesn't want to wait.
Because he has the momentum. I was going to say he could hang there as long as he wanted to try to put them out there. So that way when he goes to make the move, the pack doesn't swallow them. But we're on the white flag lap as Wells gets the point from Messi. And now he's going to have to hold off the 10 of Gray, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I think Gray might be in a position here if he can get to the inside of that 92.
He's trying for sure, but he's going to need help from Austin Scott, who he hasn't raced with very much definitely tonight. But look at that, Messi's pulling back alongside, and if Gray has to deal with Messi for much longer, that's going to let Wells pull away for the rest of the race. 2, 3, and 4 now for the final time. David Wells doing his best to hold on, but he's leaving that bottom line a little too open for my liking. But out of 4 for the final time, here they come. David Wells able to hold off Rhodes Gray, the rest of the pack behind him, and David Wells will win the season opener here at Daytona, career win number 3. How about that?
Yeah, and again, it was Wells got out there, and I was thinking the same thing you were. He kept leaving the bottom open, but they just could not get enough of a run to get underneath of him. And he's able to hold off Rhodes Gray. And Rhodes Gray, despite not winning Daytona, I guarantee you, he wanted to win it. Getting a runner-up finish after missing the playoffs last year to start off the season right, that's what you need to do, and that's how you start the season.
Absolutely. And how about some great runs further back? Austin Scott gets a career best result as well. He finished 4th in this race. Messi held on for the podium in 3rd. And Curtis Stevenson rallied back to finish in the top 5 to get his season off to an exceptionally solid start. And look back as well to guys like Darren Mills, Zach Fry, Stoyan's up there again. Remember, he finished top 10 at Daytona last year as well. And guys like them, Cal Farrell, and how about Elias Bershey in the 13? He's a teammate to Austin Scott. He managed to sneak a top 10 in his return to the Truck Series. So overall, a mix of front runners and a bit of surprises, but David Wells very much deserving of this win tonight.
Yeah, and again, we talk about FBM being the title contender team like they seem to do each and every year. Is Wells going to be the title contender here with the statement opening win? I guess we'll just have to see how the rest of the season plays out.
And to continue that season, we'll see you in a couple weeks' time at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for race number 2 of the 1UP Turbo Truck Series season, and we're looking forward to seeing how these trucks get on down in Sin City. But until we see you out at Las Vegas, from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, thanks for joining us for an epic day of racing at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. We'll see you again at Las Vegas in a few weeks, but until then, congrats to David Wells, who, for his first win on a super speedway, couldn't have come at a better time. He now leads the standings as the field heads out west.